Disclaimer: Lore Olympus is a retelling slash reimagining of the Greek story of Hades and Persephone. Therefore, their character chart placement is dependent on their actions in the webtoon, not their history. It is the start of a new character chart series. Now, I'll be honest, it's kind of weird doing a character chart series on a webtoon that doesn't have a lot of fighting in it. My other character chart series, like Unordinary and Hardcore Leveling Warrior, had a ton of action. Often chapters would rely on how cool their fight scenes were. Meanwhile, Lore Olympus isn't exactly known for that kind of stuff. But it just recently hit 100 episodes, so I thought this would be a great way to celebrate a great webtoon. This video will establish the beginning of my character chart series for Lore Olympus. But I'm also going to be taking a little time to re-establish what the character chart series is. In this series, I'm going to take a look at a webtoon, and specifically analyze 9 different characters that appear, their personalities, their morals, their actions, and more, then put them into the character alignment chart from D&D. Each spot represents their stance on authorities, established rules and such, and their morals. Each category has 2 parts to it. The top part, lawful, neutral, chaotic, are their stance on rules and laws, whether they follow it blindly or whether they actively break it. The second part is their morals, good, neutral, evil, and this is how they behave, whether they're a super sweet and kind and nice person or they're terrible people. Something to establish is that each character chart series is dependent on the webtoon I'm looking at. In a webtoon like Unordinary, it's socially acceptable to beat up the school crippled, while in our world that would be shunned upon. It's all dependent on what's the morality of that webtoon, so please keep that in mind. So let's not waste any more time, let's discuss the god of lightning and hospitality, look it up, the king of the gods himself, Zeus. Cue the lightning effect, please. Thank you. To take a look at Zeus's character, we should first examine other kings from other webtoons. King Yopai from Hardcore Leveling Warrior is your typical anime main character, a kind and caring individual who created a kingdom where player and NPC can live in harmony. However, under his unkempt hair and actually terrifying smile lies a man who isn't afraid to absolutely demolish you if you stand in his way or go against what he believes in. Meanwhile, in Unordinary, we have Arlo, a serious king who relies on the hierarchy to be the 100% law of the land, believing that everyone should follow it, and anyone that steps out of line should be forced back in. Meanwhile, Zeus is, well, he's not any of these. He appears in the very first episode, the brother of our main character, Hades, and to steal a line from the Lord of the Underworld, 2 brothers and you still have only child syndrome. According to Care.com, only child syndrome is the myth that only children are lonely, selfish, spoiled, impatient, and maladjusted. And Hades really nailed this one on the head. Zeus is known for many things, but I'm sure many of you know him for his many assorted affairs. And this is even called out by our other main character, Persephone, because you and your brother are known for your many assorted fares. While not entirely true with Hades, Poseidon and Zeus are known for this kind of stuff, but especially with Zeus. While Zeus is married to Hera, who I should remind you is the goddess of marriage, he is constantly sleeping with other women. He sleeps from Theseus from work, and even Semele, a mortal woman. 100 episodes and Zeus has already racked up 3 lovers that we know of. This could be because Zeus just likes sleeping around, but it could also be loneliness. Zeus is a social person, but we see how bummed Zeus is with a really humanizing moment with him and his brother Hades. I know I'm a crappy husband. Every day, I think I'm gonna get better. And then I backslide. I love Hera. You know I love Hera, right? Zeus loves Hera. It's not a surprise that a husband loves his wife, but that doesn't change the fact that he's constantly breaking their marriage by sleeping with other women. We see how this affects his job as well. When Eros is heartbroken, He goes on a little bit of a killing spree, let's say. According to Zeus, he killed 300 mortals this morning, and he doesn't have a permit for such acts of wrath. First of all, I think it's hilarious that you can get a permit for such acts of wrath. But when Zeus is discussing punishments, Aphrodite, Eros' mother, and the goddess of love, beauty, pleasure, and procreation, strikes up a deal with Zeus. Thankfully, COPA regulations means that no one here is below the age of 13, so I'm allowed to tell it to you straight. They're exchanging his freedom for sex. Zeus is willing to do a poor job if it means he can sleep with someone. Moving on, we see those other traits start to show up. Selfishness is a very prominent one. Zeus is a very selfish god. We see this in full force with Hera. When Hades is discussing why he never got married, he goes to the gods he had a chance of marrying. There was Hestia and Demeter. Both had their own problems, from vows of celibacy and personality issues, but Hera is quickly tossed aside. There wasn't a lot to choose from in the beginning. There was Hera, but Zeus liked Hera, so she was off limits. Yes, it could be a brotherly thing, where as brothers you choose not to pursue the same person. But it could be that Zeus simply wanted Hera all for himself, which seems super hypocritical, but that's besides the point. Zeus is constantly saying what he wants to say, doing what he wants to do. He has no respect for boundaries or social norms. Can I say something controversial? Why don't you just take her as your bride? I won't stop you. I know it's a little old-fashioned, and she might be upset in the beginning, but she'll get used to it. She might be upset, but she'll get used to it is a kind of terrible way to try to win someone's love. But that's what Zeus believes in. And he's a little spoiled too. There are tons of cases that show how spoiled Zeus is. When Ares gets mad at Zeus for sleeping with his girlfriend. When he asks Hera to talk to Demeter about letting Persephone marry Hades. But I think the moment that really encapsulates how much of a spoiled brat Zeus is when Zeus goes to Demeter to ask for a favor. I was trying to be polite, but whatever, have it your way. I need you to hide this nymph for me. She gotta stay low for a while if you catch my drift. That cool? When Demeter says no, Zeus gets upset. No? Stop kidding around. Could you not be a shrew for once in your life? Zeus is definitely not used to taking no for an answer. And when someone finally does stand up for themselves, what does Zeus do? Well, he uses that lightning he's known for and burns down Demeter's farm. What a pleasant person. All of these traits work together to form someone who's not exactly gracious. But the last one is interesting. Maladjusted, which is the failing or unable to cope with demands of a normal social environment. And honestly, that one is iffy. Which leads me back to the beginning of this video. Remember where I established that our rights and wrongs aren't their rights and wrongs? Well, not all of this behavior is acceptable, but a lot of it kind of is. Zeus is not a good person, or god, by our standards. He cheats on his wife, burns down a farm because they tell him no, and much, much more. But by the standards of fellow gods, he isn't really the worst. There's a quote that goes along the lines of, if you're worried about being a good person, remember that bad people don't worry about becoming better. Zeus wants to get better. His couch talk with Hades kind of exemplifies that. He wants to improve, he wants to get better, he wants to stop cheating on his wife that he loves. He wants to become a better god, a better husband. While Zeus is the king of gods, he's constantly breaking most every rule, and he's very selfish, believing that his way is the only way. And we see this with Hera. When Hades is romantically interested in Persephone, Zeus explains to Hera, funny, he likes her. I mean really likes her. And he doesn't like anyone. What's the harm? To which Hera does explain the harm of a nearly 2,000-year-old god being romantically interested in around an 18-year-old goddess. But that doesn't really stop Zeus. He doesn't really care that much. But even so, he still wants to get better. But there's a lot of things that Zeus needs to do before getting better. With all that, listen to my reasoning, why I'm putting Zeus into chaotic neutral. Now, the moral question is, what is morality? The better question is, what is morality in the series of Lore Olympus? The first part of the character chart series can make sense in any webtoon. Do they listen to the rules? Do they follow the rules? Even if the rules are wrong, the rules are an established part of the world. Even if murder is allowed, do they follow those rules? Morality is much more of a gray area. Morality is what people are socially accepting. Yeah, rules of marriage, don't cheat, but Poseidon really isn't much better. I'm in the market for a second wife. Do you know if Persephone is and he's cut off by Hades. Granted, he was joking, but he was joking about Persephone being his second wife. This is a society where you're allowed to have a second wife. In this society, it's not the worst thing to have it. All in all, I don't think Zeus is the worst person. In this series, you see how manipulative, horrible, and uncaring other people or gods are. Zeus is just kind of the jock that doesn't understand or know better, who sees the world the way he wants to see it, but knows that he could do better. He wants to be better, but he keeps on backsliding. Can we really call someone like that evil? If you disagree with me, let me know. And if you want to call out which god goes where, then leave it in the comments. But like always, thank you for watching.